So I've just tried to reposition slightly to show you these lions again from a different angle, and we're still sitting with the Pride, but they have not been moving at all. And you can see these big lioness resting over here, and the others are still lying not too far. I think all that would possibly happen is the sun is starting to creep through now, which is wonderful. So I think if these lions are a little bit exposed, as it starts warming up, they're probably going to move into the shade a bit more, perhaps even down to the drainage line. It doesn't look like they're going to move anytime soon, but having said that, you never know. And as we know with lions, if they do come across something or hear something interesting or something close by that they could potentially hunt, they will indeed hunt. I think this Pride is going to stay in this area for the day. Matrix, you'd like to know how lions remove those thorns out of their paws, and thorns or ticks or anything that gets stuck around the paws. So if you have a look at that little cub cleaning itself now, that is one way that they'd be able to remove thorns or ticks or anything like that. They've got very, very rough tongues. They're almost barbed. They've got tiny little hairs on them, very, very rough. And they'll be able to turn their paws around and clean their paws. And they'll also use their teeth. Sometimes they bite the thorns out or the ticks if they're sitting on them. So that would be the best way to get thorns out. Also, those pads are pretty thick, so it's not easy for thorns just to go into the pad. But yeah, the best way would be just, and I've seen it while lions are walking, occasionally they stand on something sharp, a little thorn, and they turn their paw around quickly and just lick it, and they're able to lick that thorn out. Let's just have a look here. I think I see a bit of movement just off to the left. I think the other cub is coming to join its siblings and these two lionesses. There we go. We'll get a nice view of it. There we go. Maybe feeling a little bit lonely lying on the other side just with the lionesses. Those bellies look quite full, don't they? Look at that one's belly looks fairly full. So I wonder if they didn't feed on anything last night. There's a possibility, not sure what. I don't see any signs of a carcass in this area, but potentially they did. I'm just looking for some more shade. It's very peaceful sitting watching lions like this, and I find sometimes you can find yourselves almost dozing off a little bit because it's so relaxing, and especially on cool mornings and in winter while you're sitting out, and as the sun starts rising and warming things up with that wonderful sunshine on your face, it does become very, very relaxing. And I can actually feel the sun warming us up now too. We sitting out in the open, and it's much warmer than it was earlier this morning. And these lions are enjoying their little snooze. As we know, they rest like this because they are so active at night, and they conserve their energy during the day. So there's no reason for them to necessarily move around too much during the day unless they're looking for water or they are really hungry and looking for food. Sammy, and welcome to you, Sammy. you wanted to know if we ever get nervous around the lions. So no, Sammy, I don't. And the thing is, over years, like this Pride, for example, they've been viewed for many, many years on Djuma, so they've become somewhat habituated to the vehicles moving around them and getting fairly close to them, but not disturbing them. That's the biggest thing. So we don't disturb them and we don't cause them to feel threatened. So therefore, they probably won't react to the vehicles at all. If I had to drive right up to them, yes, they would get upset and they'd do one of two things: either decide to charge the vehicle and make a noise or run away. So we don't want any of that. So we do view from a distance and we do try to be very respectful of the animals. If we're on foot though, if we were walking, it would definitely be a different experience. And when we do our bush walks and that, we do need to be careful and we do need to be aware. If you bump into lions, usually they give you a lot of warning before you get too close. You might get a few growls, so you can hear them before you might even see them. But if you really surprise them, then one or two things would happen. They'd either charge you or they'd run away. Those are the only two options. Generally speaking, and in my experience of guiding for however long, they generally do prefer moving away from you. They won't necessarily just charge unless they feel very threatened. But no, I don't. On the vehicles, definitely not nervous at all. But in saying that, we are still very careful, and I do still watch their behavior, make sure they are comfortable with the vehicles, and that they don't feel threatened. Hope that answers your question, Sammy. All right, I think what we are going to do is, we've still got quite a bit of time, so we're going to leave these lions. They seem to be very comfortable and relaxed at the moment, so let's leave these lions. Stay with us though, and we'll see what else we can find. I can hear a lot of woodland kingfishers flying around at the moment. I can't see them. I just caught a glimpse of them flying over us. You can hear that wonderful call in the distance, that beautiful woodland kingfisher. So let's leave these lions, let them rest for a bit. We'll continue. We may return later or this afternoon, but let's see what else we can find while we're out here. What a lovely morning. Sure. Nice to see those lions so far, and we've had luck with the leopards. Still need our elephant though, so that's what I'm going to try and look for. You never know, we could bump into an Ellie anywhere. Yo, the sun's very bright at the moment. Good morning to you. You're a new viewer, and you wanted to know, do we ever intervene with the animals in these areas, in these game reserves where we are, and do we ever feed animals if they're hungry? So no, Pack, we don't. We don't, not at all. And the reason for that is we are in a completely natural system, a natural environment, and it is tough at times for some people to see, especially when we experience droughts like we did this year. A lot of the animals lost condition, a lot of animals died because of the drought, but it's nature's way of keeping a balance. This is a completely independent what's the word, it's a natural ecosystem. It functions naturally. We don't have to interfere, and we are purely here to view the animals. We're not here to interfere, and we need to always remember that. And it is tough, but when I take people on safari all over Africa, we go into these national parks or onto these game reserves that are that are natural, and the animals move around where they want and do what they want. They're completely wild. They're not introduced. They've always been here. They are born into these areas. They are not introduced animals, so that is why we do not interfere at all. If lions die, if elephant die, if buffalo die because of a drought or anything like that, that is nature's way of keeping a balance, and we need to respect that. And we're purely here to view. We take the good and the bad, which is sometimes not easy, but it is what we are here for. And if, however, an animal was injured because it was caused by human intervention, who knows, maybe a snare or something that we found, we would then bring in a vet, and they would then come and help that animal and remove a snare. But anything that happens naturally to the animals, we do not interfere at all. So while I carry on driving and searching for some elephant, why don't we head back to Jamie on the bushwalk?
And the wonderful thing that a bushwalk allows us to do, I mean, obviously in the vehicles, like with Byron, you can get nice up close and personal with things like lions and leopards. But the bushwalk allows us moments with the amazing insect and arthropod life that this reserve has to offer. Like, for example, in the form of this millipede. Now, when last did you actually sit and watch a millipede eat? Because that's exactly what this chap is doing, and it's a fascinating process. He's targeting this small plant. It looks like a little small annual plant. I don't know which one it is. But you can see the way that its feelers at the top of its head, and then its front 4 sets of feet working together and in tandem to pull the leaf into its mouth. And when he moves on a little bit, you'll actually be able to see the bite marks that he's leaving behind, although I think he might actually devour this entire leaf. And it's fascinating to watch. I've never actually stopped and watched in detail the whole process. And that's the joy of these bushwalks, especially because the camera can get us closer than your eyes might. So you have a chance to pick up on the details that you might not otherwise see. Look at you, you've nearly finished that whole leaf, you greedy guts. You only just started feeding on it when I stopped here. And at first I thought only that it was going to only eat the brand new leaves, but this was a fully mature, fully sized leaf. It was about this size, that leaf that it's currently eating. Now you can see my hand's moving around this millipede, and it's not doing anything. Millipedes are not particularly alert creatures. They don't go ducking back into their holes or react in any way, and that's because generally they don't need to. There's not much out here that likes to eat a millipede, and there are things that do eat them, but for the most part their high content of cyanide has a tendency to discourage most things from eating it, which is fair enough. I think it would act as, you don't want any millipede, do you, Eggsy? No. Yes, very well, good answer. Oh, onto the next leaf. This is so cool. I've never actually properly examined the mouth parts of a millipede, but now I'm actually seeing the way that they're working together. And these actually got tiny little feeler-like, I don't know if they're legs or feelers, an additional set. And they're actually pulling the food, it's not just the top set, they're actually pulling the food into his mouth. And I'm quite impressed with the speed at which this particular millipede is capable of eating. We never really see them feed. They are, of course, complete vegetarians, unlike their somewhat unpleasant centipede cousins. And sorry, Eggsy, I'm going to disrupt you for a second, because, look here, I'm scared it's going to jump if I try and point it out to you. On the edge of this pile of old Impala dung is a jumping spider. Can you see it there? Just. It is so perfectly camouflaged. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my speech pattern. Hey, little guy. Bounce. There he is. I love jumping spiders. I find them thoroughly entertaining. But yes, back to our millipede, and we get... wait, let me just finish off with this jumping spider. Jumping spiders, we get a whole load of different species, and they bounce around, and they're absolutely fascinating. Now, this gentleman, do you mind, or lady, don't know how to tell the difference between different millipedes. Do you mind, Mr. or Mrs., if I just can we have a quick look at you? Don't really want to disturb it while it's having breakfast. No, it's not interested in moving off, and I don't really want to grab it and wrench it away. I'd be terribly offended if I was busy having my breakfast and somebody came and grabbed me and moved me away from it. In fact, that person might be at mortal peril if they were to come between me and my breakfast, so I'm not going to do that to the millipede. I'm going to let him finish off. But you can see how comfortable he was. Touched him, or her, and there was no sign of any kind of a reaction. So quite a large, quite a secure millipede. It's not too concerned about me eating it. If I were to pick it up, it would probably curl up into a defensive ball. But again, that's not really enough to stop a predator's jaws. So it ultimately is the threat of the cyanide and the awful, awful taste that a predator would get when they bite into it. Of course, you get things like civets that will munch away on them. But other than that, and wild dogs seem to like them. But other than that, they are usually free to go about relatively unimpeded. And every now and again you see them mating together, which I've a couple of months ago, after some further research and some help from our viewers, discovered that the mating all happens after the reproductive organs are all after the first 4 sets of legs. So their reproductive organs, despite what you may think about them being there, because that's how we think of standard anatomy, they are in fact right next to the head. That's why you see them intertwined like that. I'm wondering if this little jumping... No. It is not going to let me get it any closer to the camera. It is absolutely refusing. Upsy daisy. Well, we're going to leave our millipede to his breakfast. As I said, it's a nice opportunity to get it really up close and personal. Unfortunately, our snake and our owls were not around. Liz, you want to know if the killer bees that you get in the States are exactly the same as our African bees. You say that you think that they are African bees, honeybees mixed with European bees. That could be the case. I'm not 100% sure. For some reason, I thought that they were exactly the same. But now that you say that they might have been crossed with European bees, that is entirely possible. Humans are, of course, fabled for our hybridization processes and the fact that we mix and combine different species. We do it with crops. So quite possibly, I thought that they were just African honeybees, the killer bees. But perhaps they are, in fact, mixed with European bees. I'm not 100% sure. But a good question, and I will find out a little bit more about that. I've never actually been to the States, so I trust your opinion a little bit more in terms of what bees you encounter there. I just know that we have our African honeybees that used to be called killer bees. I know that in South Africa, at least, we called them killer bees right up until relatively recently, where we stopped doing that, thank goodness, because it's not a good reputation for them to have. Unlike flies, they are not pests. I mean, I know flies are valuable, but somehow I just have a little bit more sympathy when it comes to bees. And you might have noticed, those of you that are sharp-eyed, that I've been clutching 3 round green balls, and that is the happy sign that summer is on its way and that the marulas are fruiting once again. Unfortunately, these are not nearly ripe, and they probably have fallen off the tree too soon for them to ripen. But it's something exciting for us to look forward to in terms of yummy fruit that we get to have. I'm going to discard these as a special surprise treat for some happy animal, and we're going to carry on. In the meantime, let's go over to Byron and see what he has planned for the rest of his sunrise safari.
Not quite an elephant, but a little squirrel, Jamie. We were looking for elephants. That was our plan. But we found a little squirrel bouncing about, 2 of them, but they're very quick and agile. Just disappeared there. Beautiful tree squirrel. That's lovely. Nice to see. It's amazing how quick and agile they are when they run around. Now, I don't know, maybe we can do some birding. I can see lion tracks here, everyone, and to be honest, this looks like the one lioness that I think was with the males yesterday, and it looks like she walked along here to head back to the Pride, because I only see tracks of the one lioness. I don't see signs of a male or anything like that, so I assume that this would have been the lioness that just returned to the Pride. She walked all along here. This is quite far from where we left the lions, maybe 2 or 3 miles, so quite fairly far. And what's that, about 4 kilometers? You know, the glare is very bright this morning. I don't know why. It's clear skies. Ilana, you wanted to know, would the lionesses mate with a number of males to prevent the cubs from being killed like leopards do at times? Yes, Ilana, they would, and but fortunately for them, say for example the Nkuhuma Pride. In this area at the moment we've got the coalition males, the Birmingham males that are around, and they are the fathers of those cubs. Now what the lionesses do is they will mate with a number of males from that coalition, not necessarily just one. And therefore the males also then think, well, these cubs must be mine. But occasionally what can also happen is, because the females mate with one male from a pride or from a coalition, if the other brother doesn't mate with the lioness, he may still recognize that that's his bloodline because his brother mated with the females. We have seen lions before where males come into an area, even though because they probably meet up with that pride regularly and they know that one of the males mate with the females. If they give birth to the cubs, they generally would look after them and they won't harm them. It's only when new males come into an area that it becomes a problem and it becomes a safety issue for those little cubs. But lionesses would definitely go and mate with males from different coalitions at times, if there are more than one coalition around, and different males, so that they all think that it's their cubs and they'll hopefully won't harm them. We're going to make our way towards Buffelshoek Dam, I think. Why not? We'll go and have a look and see if there's any thirsty animals around. Maybe some interesting bird life around the water. This would probably be the time where, if I had guests on safari, I'd most likely find a lovely spot for us to stop, stretch our legs a little bit. We've been on the vehicle for almost 2 hours already. So nice time to stop, stretch the legs, maybe have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, hot chocolate, and just walk around a little bit. It's nice. You get off, stretch the legs around the vehicle, and then off you go again. Alright, so while I look for, oh hang on, there's a beautiful bird that's about to land and has right next to us, stay, oh there it goes, oh, there it is, hang on, the beautiful Magpie Shrike, and oh let's see if it caught something. Did it catch anything? I'm going to try and move forward a little bit. There we go, still sitting there. I wonder, it looked like it was trying to hunt insects off the ground. Beautiful, beautiful bird. And speaking of insects on the ground, Jamie has got some termites she'd like to show you.
And there's nothing more fascinating than watching termites, despite the number of times that we do actually settle and watch them. And the nice thing about these cold and somewhat cloudy mornings, although it's not so cold anymore, and the termites are slowly winding down for the day, but on cold and cloudy days, you will actually see termites gathering together and starting to build their termite mounds. Now, underneath the surface of the soil, there will be an intricate network of and system of tunnels that they have been busy creating. These are the fungus farming termites that are growing up here, so that they're starting the basis of a termite mound. Unfortunately for them, this is not a good place. This is in fact a very bad place because it's right in the middle of a road. But they've already started construction there and over there in the middle of the road, so they have been trying, but unfortunately for them, that is not something that's going to be successful. They're going to have to move their endeavours off ever so slightly. Do you know, they might even, they might even be part of that termite mound over there. That's probably where this offshoot comes from. So that's how absolutely massive termite mounds really are. Now, what I wanted to show you quickly, many of you will be familiar with it. I use a stick, not my finger. Jean-Andre used his finger the other day and ended up having to bandage it in a plaster because the jaws of the termites are so strong. So here's a soldier. Let's see if he will grab it. Oh, he doesn't want to. The speed with which soldiers react to a potential threat, and they've got these, angry, grab it. The speed with which they react to a potential threat, and of course if one of the workers is in any way injured, the soldiers immediately come out, clustered together, and in the way of a lot of social insects, are completely selfless in the risks that they are prepared to take. Now you can see the sun is coming out, so they're going to be going back into the underground very shortly. They've got slightly more pigment than some of the other termites, so they'll be able to last in the sun a little bit longer. Just look at the speed of the reaction of these soldiers. There's launching attacks on the stick. I'm not hurting them, I'm just ever so gently brushing them, but they are also responding to the carbon dioxide that I'm breathing. And I'm not blowing on them, I'm just talking. Oh my word. Whoa. Look at that. That is one serious soldier. Look at the size difference. That is intimidating, my goodness. That is a seriously intimidating creature. Look at the size of its head. It's basically all head. That is impressive. Now that is a sight you don't often get to see. Moving about the workers, you can really see the difference in size and the difference in the way that these termites are adapted. That is incredible. And you do get different types of soldiers. You do get different types of soldier termites in certain species of termite. Wow, he's incredible. It is incredible, because they don't, of course, reproduce. That is absolutely phenomenal. Just look at the size difference between the workers, the normal soldiers, and then this brute force. This is, I don't know what we would call this, the elite guard, perhaps, of termites. It's not often that you get to see these guys above ground. They come out when there is a serious threat. There's something like an aardvark, for example, that's come through to dig. Their eyesight is not particularly good. They're just reacting to movement and to motion. But that is incredible. That is absolutely massive. I am not putting my finger anywhere near this gentleman. But don't you think he arrived like some kind of tank out of a battle scene? Didn't that seem like some kind of movie with the sort of the real, I don't know how to describe it. You know what I mean, though? It's like some kind of superhero movie or a battle scene where they bring out their elite weapon. Now, Lucy, you wanted to know why they react to carbon dioxide. It's an evolutionary thing. It's an evolutionary technique in order to allow them to respond to the threat of something like an aardvark. So an aardvark's digging, and as it's digging into the termite mound, it's puffing. And at the same time, all of the termites are releasing their pheromones, the ones that are under attack and that are being eaten. And that in turn is enough to, the combination of carbon dioxide and the pheromones released by the dying termites is enough to bring out these bad boys. And what a bad boy he is. It is. Let's be more specific. Amazing. And Brenda, you say if this one is that big, the queen's must be absolutely enormous. And of course you are correct. The queen sits deep beneath the ground in a safe chamber somewhere, where she is probably about this big, to give you an idea. Absolutely massive, and of course producing many termites each and every single day. Her job is to be fed and to lay eggs. And they will be workers and soldiers and all sorts of things. And then of course very soon we're going to have the alate breeding season. They're still reacting. They are still reacting. I don't they're not going to bite me, but the soldiers have basically formed a ring around the outside, around the workers, with this chap obviously being the scariest of them all. Although he's now sort of slipped back into the seething mass of the normal workers. Oh, don't do that, ant. That was one ant that nearly met a disastrous end. Now, I just want to show you something, just because camouflage is an incredible thing, and I don't think Eggsy's seen it. And the only reason I've seen it is because I'm at the right angle to see it. Eggs? Look here. Okay, the ant nearly crawled over it. Look over there. In that patch of sand. Can you see that there? You got it. How's that for camouflage? It's a grasshopper. And it is completely and utterly hidden. So camouflaged. Bounce! There it goes there. How cool is that? It's absolutely awesome. But I'm still fascinated by Tankman over here. It's the vast difference in size and just that huge head. Imagine how heavy that head must be on such a, not a scrawny body, it's still a bigger body than the rest of them. But just to show you, gently do it. Oh, they're actually not reacting so much to carbon dioxide. It's obviously because I've been sitting here for a while and they've realized that I'm not actually actively eating them. You can, if you are desperate, eat termites. You've got to do so carefully, obviously, with great caution, because if you eat too many of them at the same time, you're going to end up with a very runny tummy. Our bodies are not really built for digesting them. It's the speed of the soldier. Launches its attack and clasps its jaws against this leaf. And they're strong. I can feel the pull. Not all of them do it, though. It's only some. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. If you eat too many termites, they taste like peanut butter, but in a very insecty kind of way. I'm not a fan. I was forced to eat some as part of an initiation many years ago into bush life. But they will upset your stomach if you eat too many. But they are a very valuable source of protein if you do find yourself without anything else to eat. And of course, there are lots and lots of them, so you don't need to worry about having a huge impact. Now, Ross, speaking of bitey things, you want to, and from the sort of the conversation of the killer bees, you want to know whether or not we have any fire ants here. We don't have fire ants, but we have something very similar. Well, it's not, they don't quite swarm in the same way that fire ants do, but we have an ant called a pugnacious ant. And as by its name, you might have guessed, it's particularly pugnacious and actually quite foul-tempered. And once one starts to bite you, if you swat it, if you squash it, you're in big trouble, because the rest of them are coming for you, and they're coming for you in a big way, and they usually come out after rain, and you end up doing a little dance, especially if you're barefoot or wearing sandals. It's very entertaining to watch people dance their way down a road or dance their way away from those ants, or animals. Actually, Shampoo Lexi once lay down in a nest of pugnacious ants. She didn't do that again. She went racing. Lexi, by the way, is my Weimaraner. But she went racing away at high speed. Now, we're going to leave our termites and this monster termite, since they will very shortly be going back to bed. In the meantime, let's find out what luck James has had with our royal family.
Well, the one interesting piece of luck that we did have, everybody, was that we went and found some tracks down in the southeast over there. And I have to be brutally honest and tell you, I don't know whose tracks they were. They were of a smallish leopard. They could have been Hosannas. I think they were too small for his. They could have been Karulas. I personally think they were too small for hers too. They could have been Shadows. I think they're slightly too small for that, which only leaves Shongile. Now, so I followed them on foot for a little while, and then I heard some baboons in the block there. And I wonder if the fact that they've split apart like this, that Hosanna is still on his own, is a function of perhaps them being split up by a troop of baboons. We know that baboons are not their best friends in the whole world. And so maybe that's what the case is. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is head back towards the kill site. I haven't been there at all since the beginning of the drive. I'm quite pleased that we didn't sit there and wait, because that would have been quite boring, wouldn't it, Jandre? Yes, indeed. There is a dung beetle here, Jandre. Well spotted. Look how well I've parked. Can you see it, Jandre? Why aren't you filming it? Why aren't you filming the dung beetle? Now, I just love this because they orientate themselves so magnificently well. See? He's going exactly the same direction that he was. See, now he's going to orientate himself again. Just find out if he's going the right way. There we are. You're doing all right, fellow. I will put you down again. Can you still see this? Yes. He knows something's up. Isn't that cool? This is a plum-coloured dung beetle. There he's orientating, and now he's going the same direction. Right, I'll put him down here if he wants to go this way. You see that one, obviously. Isn't that cool? Now he's got himself hopelessly lost. He's now looking, and off he goes. Anyway, he's decided that's the way he wants to go. I think that's such fun. Go and dig himself a hole, put it down in there, and with any luck, well, it's probably her actually. In fact, it's almost certainly her because there's only one dung beetle there. So she's probably laid her egg in there, and she'll go and find a spot that is safe, bury the ball, and then off she'll go and find some more dung. That looks like a rather strange place, yes. You going to move out? Isn't that amazing? There we go. I mean, the mass of that's like you kind of pushing, I don't know, almost half a car behind you. I'm afraid this dung beetle's appreciation of the word of physics is not very good. Cindy, you're wondering what the weight difference is between the dung beetle and the ball. I would say that dung beetle is probably about 1/8 the mass of the ball. I actually can't watch this. I find it too distressing. I mean, that is ridiculous. No ways! How cool is that? I think she's going to bury it there. She is. Look at that. She's now digging the hole. No. She could be. What they do is they dig kind of underneath it and around it, and slowly it kind of sinks into the ground, and I think that's what she's going to do here. That is so cool. So that's where she's decided to bury it. Well done. Clever little dung beetle. It looks quite big there on the screen, doesn't it, compared with when it was on my hand. So it's only about that big, only about 1 inch across, and the beetle about that big. Very nice. On we go. We're going to take one last turn. Hosanna is over here, so we'll just see if he is visible from the road. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time with him Just give him a bit of time to settle on his own. The dung, what do they do with it? Well, the first thing they do with it is eat it. That's the main function of the dung for them. But then what they do is that a dung beetle like that, a male will make a ball, and with it he will attract his lady friend, and they will sort of move away from the dung pile as a couple, and there, over a delicious meal of new and fresh dung, they will consummate their love. And eventually he will then leave her, having kissed her lightly on both cheeks, and she will fly off back to a dung pile, make another ball, and lay an egg in the middle of it, and that's what that one was there. And she will then move that off, bury it under the ground, and the egg will hatch in its food, and it will eat the dung, and then it will pupate. It comes out as a sort of white worm like that, and it will then pupate into a beetle and fly off, and the whole process will begin again. Gendre, the song that you wish to sing now is of course the Circle of Life is what he wants to sing. That is the circle of the dung beetle's life. Right, yes, I was joking. Please don't start singing. It would be much better if you didn't. No, stop now. Don't be silly. Viola, you're wondering if that is the same as a rhino beetle. It is similar. It's the same order, and a rhino beetle certainly is a dung beetle, but not all dung beetles are rhino beetles. That makes sense. Now you'll hear the gentle strains, of course, of Elton John's classic. There we go, thank you, Gendre. Okay. Jerry, have we got the crickets cued yet? Bobby, you're wondering about whether or not dung beetles prefer one of the cardinal points to roll their dung in. No, I don't think so. I don't think they're like north, south, east or west. I think that they select a spot though, perhaps before they roll the dung. That's why they're orientating on top of the ball. So I think that they know round about where they're going to take the ball before they go. But I don't think they necessarily prefer going north, south, east or west. Otherwise, if they did, of course, we'd find all dung beetles concentrated towards one direction. Now, I'm not seeing any impala around where the tree of death is. That's a good thing, for us anyway. The woodland kingfisher singing cheerfully as the morning progresses. No, there's the impala is still there, but there's no leopard in the tree. We will go and have another look closely. Isn't this interesting? I think she's definitely got to kill somewhere else. Maybe she was on a territorial patrol yesterday, and leopards are known for doing this. They will have caches or pantries. They will keep a pantry. Hello, Anna Banana. Anna Banana, you want to know if something like that sort of hapless antelope there, I'm just looking under this shaded tree here, no, there's nothing there, will provide more concentrated nutrients than an adult will. Hannah Banana, I don't think so. Maybe slightly different nutrients, given that it's been on a concentrated diet of milk for the last week. But I don't think that they are more concentrated, no. I think the protein is pretty much the same. Obviously the muscles are slightly different, given that the animal is very young. But I really don't think that it's necessarily I don't think it's substantially different. I certainly don't think it's more concentrated, just because it's a young animal. Definitely will be more tender, of course. We might go back to Little Horsana at some stage. I find this very interesting. I wonder if the leopard isn't in the same block where at least his mum isn't in the same block where he was found earlier today. Maybe we should go and have a look at Treehouse Dam. It's not a bad idea. Let's head down that way for the last little while, but we'll go around the other side of quarantine just in case she pops out there. Oh, is that a green pigeon, Gendry? Best part of seeing a green pigeon, Gendry, is the joy of saying the word pigeon. It is a green pigeon. Look at it. There it is. Do you enjoy saying the word pigeon, Gendry? Not particularly. Oh. Well.
Not one of my favourite hobbies.
There is the green pigeon. He's quite a splendid fellow, she is, sorry. Or he. Been looking for jackalberries and other fruits. Papagaaiduif in Afrikaans, says Gendry. I think he's just picked a piece of stick for a nest. A papagaaiduif means a parrot dove. So that is a parrot dove in Afrikaans. One of our 11 official languages, aka Pigeon Dutch. Now, what else have we got? We've got a babbler up there, Gendry. I know how you love a babbler at a distance. And we're seldom able to see them for any length of time. They normally run away from us. Well, they normally fly away from us. That is the arrow-marked babbler. So named because it has marks on its front that look like spears. Well done there. That's exactly what they look like. Thank you, Jerry got it correct. Arrows, she said. Right, let's press on from the arrow-marked babbler. And of course, the arrow-marked babbler is a slightly hapless bird in that it spends much of its time raising the young of the Levallian's cuckoo, completely oblivious to the fact that it's doing so. And by the time the Levallian's cuckoo leaves the flock, the babblers are about that big, and the cuckoo is that big, and they are completely none the wiser. It looks totally different, has none of the same coloration, doesn't look remotely similar, and yet the poor babblers think that they've just got a very oversized member of the colony in their flock. Now Byron has found something, the name of which is very specific and very close to my heart, and that is the Woodland, and not Woodlands, Kingfisher. Oh, hang on. Jerry, you still with us?
Camera's dying.
We're still here. Sorry, the camera's dying, everybody. It's struggling to focus. There's a tiny baby little tortoise. Let's go to Byron. We'll try and fix the camera. The camera's fixed. There we are.
Well, hopefully the tortoise doesn't move away quickly like this bird can. I'm so happy it stayed here. Yes, it is indeed a beautiful woodland kingfisher. And look at that coloration. And it's posing so nicely for us. Ah, this is great. Now, despite the name Kingfisher, this little bird actually feeds on insects. There are other kingfisher species that do feed on fish, but this kingfisher feeds on insects, and that's why you find them out in the woodlands, in the thickets, and flying around looking for insects. Sometimes it will catch insects off the ground. But beautiful colors, really, really beautiful colors. And a beautiful call. They go, "Tick, tirr, tick, tirr." Something like that. There we go. Brian's pretty good at it. Speaking of the bird calls, Brian, James mentioned earlier that you were very good at doing the black-bellied bustard call. Would you like to give us a rendition of that?
I can.
Oh, that was very good.
Oh, not too bad.
Very, very good. I can't believe how calm this woodland kingfisher is. It's not decided to move at all. Oh, they are beautiful birds. I mean, just look at that blue. And to think that these birds migrate all the way to North Africa during our winter, and then they return again in the summer. And we've been looking for them for a while. I'm not sure, some of our regular viewers might know how excited we get when we start hearing and seeing these woodland kingfishers, because for us out here in the bush, it's a sign that summer has arrived. These birds have got back for the summer, and it is wonderful to see them. Trying to see if I can find out for you quickly exactly where they migrate to. So Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, so east to North Africa, and then down, obviously, all the way down here where we are. And that's beautiful light on that bird now. Wow. I wish I had my camera with me. I actually left it at camp this morning, because that would be a beautiful photo of a woodland kingfisher. And surprisingly, now that I think about it, I don't have a photo of a woodland kingfisher. So I need to start taking my camera out and hopefully getting images like that. But sometimes it's also just nice to enjoy and appreciate the view or the sighting, even if you don't get a picture of it. Alright, we've got about half an hour left of drive, a little bit longer than that. What I think I'm going to do is firstly undo my jacket, because it is incredibly warm right now. And then let's head back towards those lions and just see if they've moved, if they're still in that area. I think that's a good idea. Can see the cloud cover, still a bit of cloud cover around, but not as ominous is the word we used this morning. Not as ominous as earlier this morning. But nice to see these clouds. I don't think we're going to get any rain. Perhaps if it builds up a little bit more, maybe later. Alright, Brian, hold on tight. I'm going to do this quickly. Oh, dangerous. Living life on the edge. Look at that, multitasking at its best. Ta-da! Harry Houdini's got nothing on me. Oh, a little bumpy here. No. Oh, what was I going to say? I was going to say something profound, I'm sure. Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, but James has found something interesting, something we don't see very often. Let's head across and see what it is.
There are some baboons, and I think the same troop that I heard calling a little bit earlier. I suspect they're heading towards quarantine. In fact, they're definitely heading that way. Now, baboons are actually eaters of meat when they can get it. And if they find that little Impala lamb specifically, if they find that little piece of Impala veal hanging in that tree, I suspect they will try and steal it. A little bit of bipedalism there. That means standing on 2 feet, Chandra. No. And I'm just hoping that this baboon troop will spend a bit more time here so it will relax around us. Because they are such fun to watch. But they're heading into some pretty thick stuff now, I'm afraid. Anyway, there they go. We'll just try and see if there aren't a few around the corner here. It's starting to warm up nicely now. You got one? I see. There we go. He's eating the delicious Flugia verosa whiteberry bush, and they really are nice. Now, if that doesn't remind you of a human being, I don't know what would. This is amazing. It's so reminiscent for me, especially those ears. Until they walk, of course, then they look like baboons again. But when they're just sitting like that, it looks like sort of, I don't know, it looks a bit like Byron with a thick jersey on. And I'll try and find some more Flugia verosa or whiteberry bushes as we go, because they make a lovely snack. That's why one of the reasons this time of year is so nice, is that there are fruits and things to eat, and the marula is not too long from coming. Probably only about, I don't know, maybe a month, if that. And just listen to the birds of the heat of the day, starting up the southern black tit going bzz, 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 bzz. And also the chin spot batis. And I think that's probably a young male that's just got himself slightly isolated from the rest of the troop and feeling a little unsafe. Right, on we go. While we go on, Jamie Patterson is trying to get out of Charlotte's web.
And Charlotte has definitely outdone herself with this particular web. It is in fact many Charlottes in this particular case, and it is because it belongs to the spider known as the community nest spider. But the nice thing about this is that the community nest spiders are actually out in the open for once. And just see if you can have a look and see the exact spiders that are responsible for this web. Now, a little bit earlier on, we were with a colony of termites busy with their road building. Now, this is a very interesting situation because spiders are not really built to be communal nesters, except for these community nest spiders. And they're all, I don't want to get in your way, they're all clumped around something. I actually think they're feeding on something in this clump that's in here. It's very difficult to see. And there's another clump, sticky. There's another clump in there. This is an absolutely massive community nest, and when we first walked past it, I think Eggsy summed it up very well by saying you could catch an elephant in this particular nest, and he's not wrong. Well, he is wrong, but he's not. It was overly exaggerated, but the point was very well made. So the spider's web, the highest attachment point is out of my reach at the top of the branch. It extends down in a sort of collection of sheets. So there's a sheet here, there's a sheet just behind it, a sheet, all of this incredibly sticky web. It then extends in sort of swaths across this side also again in sheets. And then there is a magnificent, massive net, not nest. The nest is there. There is a massive, I'm trapped. I'm fine. There is an absolutely massive net, spider's net over here. Now I've been looking desperately to see whether the Charlottes have left us any messages. I haven't found any, except perhaps stay out or you will get dead. That's a message. It doesn't need to be written. I think that's a relatively get off my finger. A relatively clear note to abandon hope, all ye enter here. All who enter here, all ye who enter here. Something like that. It made more sense in my head. But you get the idea. So they build these absolutely massive catchment webs. Oh goodness, there's web everywhere. I'm scared I'm going to break something. You can see this massive anchor string. Interestingly enough, look what they've chosen as an anchor. It's an anchor point. I'm not quite sure how this occurred. I don't want to fiddle too much with it. But a stick attached to a dung beetle has been their choice of anchor. So incredible the way that they work. And of course something will fly. Oh goodness. You can't actually move here without getting yourself caught. Something will fly in, get stuck. Probably not an elephant, but probably something a little bit smaller. And will come in, get stuck, and then what the community nest spiders do is they send out raiding parties. Very brave, Eggsy. Very brave. I'm going to have to come and rescue you. They'll send out hunting parties to go and collect, and I did see one earlier, but I have lost it, unfortunately, that looked as though it was on its way to go and fetch some food for everybody. And it's kind of like the guy who goes out and gets the pizza at the door and brings it back for the rest of the party. That's basically what they do. And then I somehow imagine everybody cheers, all the Charlottes cheer. Charlottes, and they must have males in there as well. And what's the male version of Charlotte? Charlie. The Charlottes and the Charlies. I know that you're all a little bit freaked out by this whole... Oh, there's one coming out nicely. Just here. Oh, don't go away. Oh, no, the ant scared him away. Why are you scared of an ant, you stupid thing? You're 10 times bigger than it. You see him there, Eggs. Turned around and is running away like a big wuss. Apparently many of you are freaked out by the spiders. I understand that. My brother is terrified of spiders. He's not entirely comfortable in their presence. Personally, I find them fascinating. I've never been particularly nervous of them. But I do understand that something like this and something this massive might freak you out a little bit. And sometimes, if you pluck the web just right, you can actually get them... I've never managed to do it, but you can actually get them to come swarming out, which they don't appear to want to do. Last thing I wanted to show you, and I don't know that Eggsy with his antenna can actually get in here. Actually, oh, hello. Hello, James. He's chattering away. One thing I wanted to show you was not James Hendry, nor in fact was it Aubrey looking magnificent on the termite mound. Hi, James. Very well, and self.
You won't be able to hear me, of course, on the microphone, but Karuda, I suspect, is somewhere around here with the younger or the smaller cub. The older one is over there, and the younger one's tracks, I think, are over there. So it's quite possible that she has a kill and her other baby not too far from where you are currently standing.
Copy that. Thank you.
Excellent. We are going to continue on our way.
How wonderful. I'm sure you're all very keen to be back on the vehicle with such an entertaining gentleman. So off you go then, onto the back of James's vehicle with you.
Now careful. Careful as you climb on. Careful now. There we are. Right, let's go. Goodbye, pajamas. Bye, Egbert. I think Karula's somewhere around there. I think she should carry on walking straight through there. I think she'll find her with Shongalai. Do you like the name Shongalai, Gendry? Shongololo, yes. Shongololo is an excellent name for leopard. We must, of course, be looking in the treetops here all along, because she could have her second kill somewhere around here. There's a duiker, which I'm not going to try and show you because it'll run away immediately. Oh, that's really quite stunning. Now, of course, all the hornbills are in the midst of mating and breeding. Hello, Jamie. You're a new viewer, and you were wondering about my favourite bird to observe. Well, my favourite bird outright, of course, is the white-browed scrub robin out here. But to watch, what birds do I like watching the best out here? I very much enjoy watching hornbills. I find their antics most amusing. They just are very character-filled. And this, of course, one of 4 hornbill species that we get here. Looking for... ooh, what's he got? A grasshopper. Right, we're going to pop past Treehouse Dam, see if there's anything there. Then we'll head for one last foray past Hosanna and on to quarantine. But in the meantime, Byron Sarau, he of the south of Johannesburg, a dubious part of the world, has found the lions again.
I have indeed found the lions, James. He who hails from probably 10 kilometers north of me. So I don't know exactly how what that makes. Anyway, but these lions have moved slightly, everyone, just as I thought. They just moved into the shade a little further, but that's about it. Looks like most of the pride they've just moved closer together, and they're lying in the shade of some guarri trees, and there's some little knob thorns, young knob thorns, and some combretums. That's the trees that they are resting under, that providing shade for them. It has been a lovely morning though. It's funny, as soon as the sun disappears behind the clouds, then it warms up again. It cools down again, and then when the sun comes out, obviously it gets quite hot. But it's amazing how the temperature drops just as soon as the sun disappears behind the clouds. I've sustained an injury, I believe, of sorts. Now out here, obviously we put our lives on the edge and at risk every day. That's not quite that bad, but we do come across little insects that can sometimes cause quite a bit of irritation, and I think one has sat on me, and I don't know if you can see it over there. It's quite red around that area. Does it look red, Bryan?
Yeah, it's red.
It is incredibly, it's perhaps a caterpillar, but it's incredibly itchy, and it happened yesterday, getting back from the bushwalk. So I've possibly brushed against something while on walk. But these hairy caterpillars, you've got to be so careful of them, because they do cause massive itchiness and huge irritation to your skin. And I think that's possibly what got hold of me. Hopefully I'll survive. Hopefully. It's just nice to sit and listen, and I know some of you can hear some of the birds calling. I'm trying to see, there would sound like a white-browed scrub robin nearby. There's one calling further away. Oh, speaking of birds, Bryan, there's a bird flying above us. Let's see if we can get it, maybe. So this is a vulture, I think. It is indeed. It is a hooded vulture. That's what that is, hooded vulture. See, things happen while you are just sitting around watching lions. Dale, you wanted to know about the lioness that we think was the one mating with the male the other day, or again, I say think, we didn't see them actually mating. So the one who was with one of the Birmingham males, with the coalition member, and she has returned to the Pride. Now, perhaps you were not with us earlier. She has returned to the Pride, so all 5 lionesses are with the Nkuhuma Pride at the moment, and we also have all 6 cubs here. So the whole Pride is together. And I saw her tracks earlier. We were about 2 or 3 miles down, or basically directly east of here, and I could see where her tracks came from. And she headed into this area to join up with the rest of the Pride. A history, or perhaps contract something that causes them to have infertility and not have the ability to have cubs. You say, like the lioness that I've heard some people referring to as amber eyes. I'm not sure. I do think it is possible that sometimes, and I've seen it with leopards too, occasionally they'll mate and just not fall pregnant, because who knows, a number of reasons, but perhaps infertility is one, and can happen. However, and maybe some of you viewers can help us, or help me rather. And does anyone know exactly how old that young lioness is, that amber eyes, that we think was the one mating with? Okay, so apparently she's around 6 years old now, so she should be ready to mate, definitely at that age. I'm just trying to think, and as I said, I haven't seen the males mating properly with them since I've been here. We've seen with the males a few times, but I have not seen them spend 4 or 5 days mating with the female every day. It hasn't happened, or from what I've seen. So that plays a big role. Unless they mate regularly and efficiently, they're not going to fall pregnant. So I think, even 2 days ago and yesterday, we saw her with that male. We didn't see them actually mating, and who knows if they did. But the fact that she's back with the Pride just makes me think that she possibly didn't. So all of those factors need to be taken into consideration, and but maybe we're lucky, in the next few months, who knows, we could see some cubs from that female. Trying to show another vehicle how to get in here where we are, so they can also have a view of the lions. It is always nice, and I say it, but I do mean it. It's always nice to see people out on safari and out on vehicles enjoying the game viewing. You can hear those. I just heard those woodland kingfishers. Do you hear that call? Listen. Those are woodland kingfishers. They're not too far, but I can't really see them. Let's just see if they call again. Oh, they've stopped. There, listen. Did you hear that sound? That was just another sound that the woodland kingfisher makes. That like high-pitched chattering almost that they do, and that's usually when a male and female might be in the same area. Morning, everyone. Morning. How are you? Good, thank yourself. So, it looks like, just as I thought, I think these lions are going to potentially rest in this area for the day. But to be honest, it's always difficult to try and predict where they're going to move and where they're going to stay. With this cloud cover, the weather is a bit cooler, so there's a possibility they may decide to move at some point. And again, a lot of factors need to be taken into consideration. Are they full? Have they eaten recently? And from what we saw earlier, their bellies did look fairly full. Then they won't necessarily have to move. They won't necessarily have to go and look for food or hunt. But who knows? I've got a feeling, and I think they're going to stay in this area for the course of the day and maybe move later this afternoon or early evening. But we'll see, and we'll definitely see. We'll see on our sunset safari. I'm going to sit here a little bit longer, just till the end of the show, to see if they do move or not. In the meantime, let's head back to James and get an update from he who hails a few kilometers north of where I'm from.
It is not the number of the kilometers, it is the quality of them that is the count. Let me explain while I feel a little bit like I'm in a loop here, because we have been looping around trying to see if we can find the other leopards. Byron lives in the south of Johannesburg, and yes, I do only live 10 kilometers. Well, I did only live 10 kilometers to the north of where he did. But between, him and me was a chasm, a world of difference. And of course, many of the criminal underworld of Johannesburg come from the south of Johannesburg. I'm not saying Byron is the what? The Wemapan serial killer, for example. Exactly. Thank you, Genre. The Wemapan serial killer comes from the south of Johannesburg. And who wants to come from the place that the Wemapan serial killer comes from? Exactly. There we are. Thank you. Now I'm sure you're all completely sorted and understand exactly what I mean. Byron is not the Wemapan, was not the Wemapan serial killer. Right, I obviously have nothing further to contribute to anything right now, so let's head back to Jamie, who will always have something to contribute. She has got a poop-eating coleoptrid.
Also known as a dung beetle. We might not be able, Eggsy and myself are not going to be contributing to the mad argument that currently was playing out between Byron and James, but we are going to keep you entertained with the actions of this dung ball rolling dung beetle as he goes about gathering piles and, what would you call it? It's not quite a handful that he's gathering, a leg full, what would I call it? As he gathers loads of dung. In this case, it was zebra dung, but it's completely lost its shape, which is relatively common in summer. Sometimes it's actually quite difficult to see what particular animal deposited the pile of dung that you're looking at. And he's working furiously. He hasn't managed to attract a lady friend just yet, although, is there hope on the horizon? Could this be the lady friend he's been looking for? Could he perhaps have the dung ball that will steal her heart? Or is it a male coming to steal his dung ball? The drama of the lives of dung beetles is always quite thoroughly entertaining. This way. Aw, I'm sorry, buddy. Not today. Bye then. Off it goes. If it was a female, I guess she decided that he just didn't have the dung, or perhaps she just didn't see him, and it's one of those little tragedies of fate that they might have been destined to be together, but something just went a little bit wrong and she's gone off in the wrong direction. How tragic for him. He's put all this effort in. As he furiously pummels the dung ball to create a nice, round, very solid structure that will be the ultimate end game. I nearly said end ball, but that's not what I mean. End game of this particular project. Unfortunately, it seems as though our signal, or not our signal, but we're having minor problems with our feed, so we do apologize for that. I hope that you can still hear me apologizing. Sorry. So we're going to be saying goodbye to you. It is actually near the end of our sunrise safari stroll. So from myself, big thank you to Eggsy for his wonderful camera work, and to Aubrey for keeping an eye upon us, making sure that we're nice and safe, and most importantly, a thank you to all of you. I'm going to send you back across to the vehicles for now, and I'll see you on the sunset safari. Bye-bye, everybody.
We've come back to quarantine for, I think, the 65th time today. What have you got? A vervet monkey in the background. And we were hoping not to see the vervet monkey, but although we are happy to see the vervet monkey, we were hoping to see the baboons coming out, perhaps, and making their way towards that carcass sitting in the tree. Anyway, time will tell over the course of the day what happens. It's nice and cool today, or it is for now, so we'll see what happens during the course of the day, whether the leopard returns, whether the baboons come there, but I think there will be some animal movement during the day because of the temperature. Did you hear that, Jandri? It's the Impala talking to each other. Hopefully not the mother of the one in the tree. She's definitely calling her youngster, though, whoever that is. Alright, well, as I've always said, you often think that you've heard it all and that there could be nothing that would surprise you ever again, and so often you're wrong when you think that. And I have now been astounded by a Twitter handle, the following. Everybody get ready, take this down. Tormented Zombie Owl. Tormented Zombie Owl would like to know if Impala can get rabies. Tormented Zombie Owl. Do you mind if I call you TZO? I just think it would be easier. TZO, all mammals apparently can get rabies, but it does affect them very differently. And so for the predators, often they get quite aggressive. You know, they foam at the mouth, they get aggressive. For human beings, they become hydrophobic. They get terrified of water. Then they get horribly thirsty, and then they shake about and die. Totally incurable in human beings once you start showing symptoms. Then in antelope, I think what it does is create completely the opposite effect. It creates malaise. This makes them very tired, and eventually they just kind of lie down and die. But yes, apparently all mammals can be affected by rabies. Some can carry. Many of the mongoose species out here do carry rabies, so if you're ever bitten by a mongoose, it's the first thing that you go and do is get post-exposure treatment regardless, but it doesn't affect them. There are some dogs I think it doesn't affect, but most it would affect. And then bats, of course, carry rabies as well. Some, not all bats. Now I just want to look through here with my binoculars and to see if we can't catch those vervet monkeys again. You can't see them, can you, Jandri?
The mother and baby.
Shall we move forward a bit into the clearing? It might give a slightly better view. Alright, we're going to say goodbye to you here. I'm going to have one last turn past the tree, but not with you, because I don't think there's any real point. You've seen the dead Impala, you don't need to see it again. We will see you this afternoon at about 4 o'clock, of course. That is the normal time. Thank you for coming on Drive with us. It's been wonderful to have you with us. But for the last few minutes, let's head back to the south, to the Wemapan killer's kin, Byron Sarau.
James, thank you, James. Thank you very much for that. You've got his imagination sometimes, I wonder. Anyway, I'll have a word with James when I get back to the camp. The southern part of Johannesburg is actually a beautiful area. I think James is just jealous that he's not from the south. We're still sitting with these lions. They haven't moved, just as I thought. They are going to probably stay in the shade here. Those lionesses seem very relaxed. And I actually caught a glimpse of two of the lionesses just lying off to the side where we saw them earlier. It's a bit tricky. I don't think you'll be able to see them. They're just through the thicket. Jordan and Pat, you wanted to know, how do the lions survive with these thick coats? Well, we need to remember that these animals adapt to their surroundings depending on the temperature and the climate that occurs. So they have got ways of cooling down. The panting, lying in the shade, staying out of the sun during the heat of the day, all of that helps cool them down, or helps him stay cool. Yes, I'm sure they do get hot, just like we get hot, but they've adapted to the surroundings and to the climate that we get in these areas. So the coat is vital for animals, not just lions, but the coat on all big cats and the coat on some of the antelope species and that too. It is needed, especially in winter. So in summer, all it does is it changes their behavior slightly. They won't be as active in the heat of the day, try and conserve their energy, try to stay in the shade. All of that helps cool them down a little bit more. I can hear a pearl-spotted owl calling in the distance. I wonder if you might be able to hear it. It might be a little bit far. Let's listen. I think it's a bit far. It's going. Can you get it?
Yeah.
That's the pearl-spotted owl, the start of the pearl-spotted owl call. It's got a beautiful call, and it's one of my favorite little owls. There, can you hear him again? Well, we've had a wonderful, wonderful morning. Thank you very much to Jamie and VM, who were on bushwalk this morning, I believe. Was Eggsy on bushwalk, and James and VM and myself and Bryan and the Thumb. Thank you to the voices in my head, or the ladies in control, final control, Rebecca and Jerry. We'll see you all this afternoon. Goodbye and have a wonderful day.